Good morning and welcome back to the Morning Grind Fondo. The series is winding down with only 2 races remaining. Last week, we watched Jason Stern hold on at the final sprint in front of Larry Parker and get to the choppa. This power sprint gave Jason Stern the slight advantage as he took the overall series lead from Chris Adlington. Going into week 11, Stern has a 48-point advantage at the top of the overall leaderboard. This week, we look to make it fast with 8 laps of the Richmond Flat course for the Super B race. With just 38 feet of elevation gain per lap and double draft turned on, this race is guaranteed to end in a bunch sprint. The only question is who ends up on top. One lap is 3.1 miles with the extent of elevation coming on a 2% rise out of the halfway point of the lap. Will the dirt cycling team be able to hold off the heavy sprinters in today's matchup? Can Jason Stern control the top of the leaderboard and hold off the hard charge of Mellow Johnny and Chris Adlington? It's time for the moment of truth. Today's race recap is supported by theblackbibs.com, a company that believes in quality cycling gear at a family-friendly price. Comfortable, no labels, and most importantly, affordable for the average dad supporting a family. Check out theblackbibs.com today for a great selection of bibs, jerseys, base layers, and more. Once again, we have Ken Nowell to thank for recording this race. Head over to the Dirt Cycling Team channel in the link below and give him a like and subscribe. This race follows Team Dirt and the Pink Kits as we try to control the pace and put our leader, Jason Stern, back on the podium once again. With a guaranteed pack sprint on the Richmond Flat course, the start of the race rolls out at just 4.5 watts per kilogram, one of the slowest starts I've yet to experience in a Zwift race. By the 1 mile mark, the pace had already fallen to 3.5 watts per kilogram. With no elevation to animate this race, everybody is looking at Team Dirt to make something happen. We came in with a plan to provide explosive surges off the front of the pack. We have 2 objectives. First, to drive the pace and keep it fast in hopes of whittling down the 64 racers to a smaller group of 20. And second, to try and see if a small team can break away and get up the road. With Mellow Johnny and Chris Adlington so close to Jason Stern in the overall chase for the leaders, our goal is to get people up the road and finishing higher than either of them, taking the big points off the board and minimizing any potential threat to Jason Stern's lead. Rich B makes the first attack, followed up by Brian Carver and the racer formerly known as Get to the Choppa. Shortly thereafter, an unknown brawler, Johnny Luke, presses the pace even further before the 4-man group is brought back in. This would be the blueprint for the race. A small group that sprints off the front, drives the pace, and is once again swallowed by the double drafting pack. Unless a group of 10 or more can escape together off the front, it's a near guarantee that a break will not sustain the gap from this large of a peloton. 8.2 kilometers into the race, and another group gets off the front to the tune of a nearly 10-second gap. This break holds the front for a while with Jacob Wilson, Johnny Luke, Choppa, and M. Kanai. Kanai is a rider who will get disqualified from the race for not having heart rate data, per the series rules on ZwiftPower.com. The attacks continue to launch off the front, one by one. Carver, Walt Huddle, Rich B, Choppa, a flurry of attacks over and over while the series leaders sit in the pack waiting for the final sprint. At 17.1 kilometers, the most impressive show of teamwork I've seen in Zwift is on display. Team director Brian Carver has decided that the pace is too low. He and Rich B have just been caught off a break once again. Scrambling for someone to pick up the tempo, headed into this 2% drag, it's Featherstone who gets the challenge.
Who's around? Featherstone, smash this hill. Okay.
As amazing as these recaps may be, some of the best moments in racing still aren't captured. Sitting in the peloton, I watched as Featherstone leapt into action immediately. For a man already holding on to a hard pace, the surge and acceleration at the drop of a command is incredibly impressive. The race continues on at a steady 3.5 watts per kilogram on the front, while Aaron Havel, Brad Hochstetler, and Ed Aguayo take turns on the front. Chris Schwinker pushes a 5-second gap with 10K left in the race. Unfortunately, no one follows the move, and there is still 45 to 50 racers in this lead pack. No separation has occurred, and as predicted, it's going to come down to a chaotic group sprint. As the final laps approach, Jason Stern gives the commands and final sprint strategy.
All right, boys, everyone pay attention. At this point, next lap, we start to string it. And we have to string it all the way to the finish.
As the peloton comes to the two-way road, the big names are all there. Adlington, Mellow Johnny, Larry Parker, and of course, Jason Stern. Exactly as planned, the race is strung out with all of our leaders in the top 15. Leading into this final hairpin, it's 4.5 watts per kilogram and climbing fast. Rich B is the first to make a big move off the front with a furious acceleration to 10.6 watts per kilogram. Just before the line, Tim Spears puts the finishing blow in the race and takes first overall. Rich B holds off the remaining sprint to keep second, and Larry Parker takes third. In this chaotic bunch finish, the fate of our overall leaders is a roll of the dice. Mellow Johnny pulls up with a 4th place finish, followed by Jason Stern, who's minimized the damage in 5th. Chris Adlington misses out on the big points, finishing just outside the top 10 in 11th position. Team Dirt also places Stuart Featherstone in the top 10 at number 8. Finishing just one position shy of Mellow Johnny, the top seat on the overall series throne remains Jason Stern's to defend. Mellow Johnny sits 40 points back in second, with Chris Adlington falling into third with his finish. While it may seem like this series is wrapped up and Jason Stern's for the taking, it is anything but. With 1 week remaining, it is Mellow Johnny that is the only remaining contender for the crown. A 1st or 2nd place finish next week would net Mellow Johnny enough points to take the win. In order to respond and gain a point improvement himself, Jason Stern has to finish in 7th or better. The course next week is ideal for this final selection at the top of the leaderboard. We head back to Austria for the Innsbruck-Lucher course. 15 miles of brutal climbing await, with 2,700 feet of elevation gain in store. We go up the Lucher climb not once, but twice as we finish with a sprint up its peak. This race will come down to some of the best climbers in the Super B category. For our matchup next week, look out for some dirt names like New Heights, Dean Manchillo, and Ken the Badger Nowell. For the overall series win, I expect a close matchup between the leaders, with the slight advantage on this type of course going to Jason Stern. Come back next week for the series finale and crowning of the series champion for the Morning Grind Fondo's B Series.